up. I hate it when she bangs the guns together. It's like, that thing costs billions of dollars. How can you be so careless?
And then when they're golden guns, even more.
Oh, God. Makes me sick. That's the other thing that keeps me up at night, how careless D.Va is with her expensive technology. But out the gate, it is going to be two very different team comps here.
Also not too different, somewhat different, but also not too different. And on both sides, as well as something we haven't seen a decent amount of. Watch those bio-nades, very critical to deny healing on the other side, when so much healing is required for these comps.
It's kind of wacky. It's like it's not quite goats. Maybe it's sheep. I don't know. It feels similar but different.
Lamb.
It's lamb. Yeah. Talon had a little lamb. Anyway, apparently it's a very effective lamb. It's very lean meat, delicious.
But I want to say there is more of a clear win condition on the new Paradigm side. With Hojin Ho onto the Hanzo, when you have the Grab Dragon combo, specifically on a very tight, narrow map like this, it's going to be quite deadly. Talon, on the other hand, don't quite have that, so we'll see if the Brigitte is what makes a difference. A lot of armor coming into play now. Talon also ahead in terms of progress.
And there is that Dragon Strike out. Not going to bother trying to combo it.
Where's the Dragon?
Yeah, I think it got eaten, but doesn't matter. They're still going to be able to connect out. That's pretty gnarly there from Talon, just to completely destroy New Paradigm.
Well, there goes your win condition. That one's got to really suck for New Paradigm. They see the writing on the wall as well. Hojin Ho, they're going to match things on the other end, going for Brigitte himself. They don't have any ultimates available. That's going to really suck because the Graviton does come out.
That is a good bio-nade to come out from Velvet, but it's not going to be enough to save the team. Bazzi gets a 3K amazingly, which is going to put him right on the cusp of having another rally. Talon, by the way, they've got enough time, I think, to get Villeneuve back here before New Paradigm are able to make another go of this. Actually, maybe not. I was going to say they could complete, sort of continue this spawn camp, but not quite. So
there is an opportunity now for New Paradigm, because they are starting to come up on important ults like the Graviton Surge, that they can start getting some ground. You see the respect come out from Talon. They back out. The hammer does come down, though, and wow, it swings hard.
Doesn't matter. They got close, but it's still not close enough. Oh, this is so disgustingly one-sided so far. That is 3 fights, 3 full wipes off as many ultimates, it seems. Maybe 4 ultimates.
It's like 1 ultimate per fight. As I'll grab the previous one. We just had an Earth Shatter. I won't count the rally here because that's one you were going to use anyway.
Yeah.
And for New Paradigm, they're still waiting for their first grab. Here it comes.
They've got to get these to connect, and they're able to pop a sound barrier into the mix here for when it gets dire. They catch 2 with the self-destruct. That's crucial. Finally able to get some headway against Talon. That would have been, I'll be honest, a little embarrassing if Talon had been able to completely clean sweep that fight as well.
We kind of did see that already when the Dragon Strike came out of Hojin Ho earlier. It was completely nullified.
That sound effect played in my head like wah, wah, wah.
It's basically what happened here is the rally does come out from Hojin Ho as well.
There's an Earth Shatter, doesn't really get much, pops the mech on the ground, but it's going to blow up anyway, doesn't really matter. A weak in with so much charge and the nano boost. There's the grab. This should be enough to clean up New Paradigm, getting the damage in. Hojin Ho going to be the first to drop, and the rest are going to fall surely. Ilsubi finally goes down. It took them a little longer than I expected, but they made the work happen. They got it there. A lot of them were just kind of stuck in the grab while the rest of Talon ran for the point, which is part of why it took so long, but it guaranteed that they got the point.
So I think this is a standard win for Talon, and what I mean by that is in a standard map of 100% for any control map, there should be 1 fight for the losing team where they do have a lot of ultimates. There is comeback potential. That comeback potential did show its head, right? The grab did come through from Iron. We did see New Paradigm Cap out win a fight. The problem is, you only have enough comeback potential usually for that 1 fight unless you can be very reserved and very, I guess, gaining a lot of value out of all these ultimates. For Talon though, well, they only needed to lose 1 fight, come back in at 99%, cap it out 100%, get a win.
You got to respect New Paradigm as well for leveraging that ultimate advantage, because it is also possible to not. So credit where it's due. Both teams, again, mirrored with the team compositions.
You love to see it, and you hate to see it. Bazzi versus Hojin Ho. So Hojin Ho had an interesting match against EXL's Yon1 last time around. That is a slap in the face.
Just how close he was. You know when a Widowmaker is tunnel visioning because she's scoped? That's what that seemed like. That was so gnarly.
Voice line even said sniper. It's like, yes, indeed. There's a sniper there.
Well done. And with that, New Paradigm, despite losing Hojin Ho in hilarious fashion, they are actually going to be able to cap the point. So this time, Talon aren't going to quite get that domineering opening.
I see some pressure into a week though, so
Bazzi again.
Coming out of this, and Bazzi is seemingly getting his hand on against Hojin Ho here. I wonder if he's going to stay on this pick or go into something like Tracer. That being said though, staying onto the Widowmaker is going to be quite important to shut down a week.
And that's the really crucial thing. I mean, both kind of want to stick on it for exactly that reason. Both teams are still running a Pharah. What we're not actually seeing, though, is we're not really seeing Bazzi kill anyone other than Hojin Ho, who is actually now being forced into a change. That makes me wonder if Bazzi might swap, but again, you still want to be able to deal with Eind.
I know Transcendent's going to come out through from Velvet as well. Note that New Paradigm has had control of this point for a very long time. Now, we haven't seen too much action out of the Forest, admittedly, for a long time, and we're not going to see any action out of Eind for at least this fight.
Some of these kills just feel so brutal. I thought Eind was safe, but nope. On the side with the self-destruction. With that, two teams just kind of running relatively even. Catch on Ilsubi does swing it the way of Talon just ever so slightly. Running down Haru, though, is Hojin Ho. So again, it gets traded back. And honestly, neither team is coming out the better for this, except for the fact that you consider New Paradigm are getting progress on the point. They don't mind if the kills just go 1 for 1 the whole way through and Talon never get enough of an advantage to cap. That's going to put New Paradigm all the way at 99 if it keeps going this way.
I want to say, I guess the merit of the first fight went from New Paradigm. It doesn't really matter that Bazzi was out-sniping Hojin Ho for most of this map so far. Talon, for the most part, despite winning that matchup, have not won any other matchup, have not won the team fight, and have not got any percentage on the cap.
Hojin Ho looking for a wraparound with this pulse bomb, maybe wanting to stick to Winston. No such luck. Villeneuve backs off. Hojin Ho just fishing for something. It's looking like it might be Bazzi. He's going to pull back. Bazzi's had very little opportunity to get much done. A week does find Frost, with the Rocket Barrage finding a little bit more at long last as Bazzi at long last unleashed. All the time he spent killing no one but Hojin Ho, he finally gets a couple of extra shots through. Feels like he spent a lot of time running away, and finally when he's able to set up shop and snipe, he gets kills.
Well, the other thing is he's not considering Hojin Ho anymore on the Widowmaker duel. He has to consider Hojin Ho in terms of the Tracer being annoying, but because he's not looking for the opposing Widowmaker, he turns aside onto Eind, who was kind of caught with his pants on just a little bit with a barrage in the sky, changes himself now into a Genji as well. New Paradigm know they only need one fight win, and they want to blitz this one through quickly. Or slowly.
Yeah, also, well, you're going to have to wait for Eind for certain. Oh, and Velvet too! He knows that he's getting absolutely pummeled by rockets from the backside, and off the back of that, Talon know that they can just dive into this very concentrated little space.
The safe thing here is that New Paradigm can be seemingly happy to know that they'll get a lot of ultimates very, very soon. I guess on the other end, Talon are going to do the same thing. So for New Paradigm, they're expecting a pretty big ult battle here. Whoever gets a little bit more value is going to really find themselves in the commanding position. So Bazzi has to be kind of the X factor because he doesn't really need or have to really even care about ultimates. He can just get a kill with a good headshot regardless.
There's a lot that can counter out a weak here. I was going to say Eind is one of them, but now he's dead. That means they can't deflect this barrage, and that means the barrage gets to go down for free. The Transcendence was the other tool, but it wasn't enough to save Frost, who also didn't use the third potential tool there, which is the Primal Rage. So off the back of that, Talon, little bit of an advantage here. Gogora, though, separated from his co-tank. Villeneuve's Soul Tank now has to pop the Primal Rage. Transcendence as well as New Paradigm. If they can just last this one out, they will have the ultimate advantage. Now they start getting aggressive, putting the pressure on the point, and look at Talon just getting pushed way, way back. They catch Eind. Velvet dies. This is so messy. Where is the grouping from either of these teams? Talon starting to suddenly get kills as they approach their own 99.
But you're expecting New Paradigm to be coming out at the top of this fight. They had more ultimates towards the end of it. Talon Esports bled all their resources dry. Man, no one even touches the point, Talon.
What a wacky map. What a wacky fight. I mean, it was almost like for the first 99%, the two teams weren't even really fighting. It was just... This will be one of those absolutely gross Earth Shatters, by the way. It's looking like the first of them, and
oh, they're all bionated too.
It's just, there's no coming back from that. There's no surviving that sort of connection. But as I was saying before, that Gardens, it was weird. It was very, very weird because you have New Paradigm in control of the point, and for that entire 99%, it felt like they weren't even really fighting. They were just kind of scrapping and forcing Talon into situations where they actually couldn't really attack the point at all, which worked, but it kind of felt like Talon could have been playing a bit more proactively, and then they finally did.
I think the point you made about where is the grouping up here, where's the consolidation, that part really stuck out to me as well, because what you'll see in an interesting way, you get a really clear distinction, because we just saw EXL and Monster Shield, who, based on at least Lee Jung-tae, were playing at a much, much higher level, and you see the way they coordinate, you see the way they move and play as a team. Very much different from what just happened specifically onto Gardens. I mean, it was a bit of a mess, right? You said it was quite chaotic. A lot of things happening off on their own little corner there. Bazzi's mostly winning his widow duel against Hojin Ho, but as was already mentioned, doesn't matter that he was getting those picks. What's the rest of the team doing here? Where is the conversion of that pick into a fight win? How is it that Talon, despite getting that, they can't quite, turn that around
and it felt like
onto a proper fight win and the new paradigm as well? It was just all very strange.
What I felt was actually lacking, really, for both teams, was actually objective focus there. It felt like none of the fights were really happening on the point. And if either team was getting the upper hand, they were never turning that into pressure on the point. I will concede New Paradigm didn't need to for the first half of that, because they had control of the point. And then after that point, it was actually Talon fighting on the point, because that's what New Paradigm were going for, but Talon winning those fights. It felt unclean from both teams, the entirety of that Gardens there.
Yeah, they need to be cleansed.
Yeah, they need to be purged. Let's not get too extreme. But, I mean, there's so much for both to tidy up. It's hard to really say too much about it.
Well, here's another distinction, right? When you look at teams like Blank and EXL and also Monster Shield, one thing you'll notice is that it's quite hard to get a full team white. Usually, you'll get a decent number of kills. They will respond and get a decent amount of trades, and it seems like you're trying it's like Incipient's trying to wipe Blank out, right? They just couldn't get that full team wipe. When you look at this matchup, one thing Talon was at least doing against New Paradigm was they were getting some very convincing fight wins, massive 6 kills. The gong came out multiple times, and that's quite telling.
On Control Center.
On Control Center, but I also want to say, in general, they were, when they started winning fights, man, it was very convincing. So now going on to Iconwald, second map of the day, and I think we've seen this 3 times now today.
And I want to see both of these teams take a bath so that they can come into this map clean.
but the thing is, right?
Especially, I think Control. This is how I wash myself.
On Control Center, how would you know that? Oh, I'm just kidding. On
How you wash your arm?
I mean, on Control Center, right? Control Center, you bringing that up is really important, because that was when we saw the most convincing fight wins coming out of Talon, and that's a bit of an issue for New Paradigm being wiped so easily.
That being said, this is why I feel that Lee Jung-tae match was so bizarre, is then on Gardens, I mean, there was nothing convincing from either team, really.
Well, towards the end,
a little more
Talon,
a little more so from Talon, but that's, I mean, it feels like there is a bit of a consistency thing at play there for Talon. If they could be so one-sided on Control Center and then so messy for so much of Gardens, but at least they won.
I'll say it like this, when Talon got the point back eventually, despite New Paradigm having a very decent lead, you start to see a week coming down with big barrages, and Iron goes down multiple times to Genji, fails to build the blade quickly enough. New Paradigm just reset themselves, in a very big way. They lose 3 members. The other 3 dive off the point. You're like, okay, well, they're conserving ultimates, but they never felt like they had economy advantage. It was all just very weird from New Paradigm. So I think Talon are slightly edging this one out. If they can at least continue that level of dominance, when they start winning, they win hard.
And I will give them that, absolutely. I want to touch on something that we mentioned before the match, though, and that was this idea of Talon needing to come alive really in this match, because next week will be too late if they're really wanting a solid run, not just into playoffs, but then actually through playoffs should they qualify.
Substitution, by the way. Bazzi out, TYG in for Talon on the DPS end of things.
And I expect that'll actually help Talon play a little bit cleaner here. And that's what I want to see. I want to see
one person, the difference.
He's like, oh, you guys need a wash. Let me help you. He brings the soap.
Oh, boy.
Don't know how we ended up.
I don't even know what that looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know how to respond to that either.
Me, honestly, I wouldn't either in your shoes, so fair enough. And already TYG getting some pressure out onto the ground game. A weakened Eind having a bit of a dogfight. One more rocket will do it, but they don't quite connect either or. Frost is one taking damage, yeah. That pulls Ilsubi down to the ground, but while that's all going on, New Paradigm they're able to start getting some kills through, and they keep Frost alive, just barely able to handle an aggressive dive from Talon there as they finally started pressuring tanks.
Well, it seems like all the action was on the ground, right? It was Frost that we saw onto the top HUD, having such low HP, but he gets the kill onto Villian, the opposing Winston. Meanwhile, both Pharaohs were having not a lot of effect on each other, missing, kind of hitting a lot of shots on each other, but not collecting the kills. Ultimately, though, New Paradigm, they find the tanks of Talon, and they close out that fight, and now New Talon have to come back 1 minute less on the clock. Try it all again.
Hey, it's a new day, or at least a new week. That was a stretch. Anyway.
It's 1 minute later in the same day.
Yeah, anyway, Tato's going to get demexed, and actually Ein finally going down in that dogfight. That's an opening now for Talon. They should just be able to leverage that without too much sweat, and indeed, that is how it's falling. Frost pops down, dive onto the demexed Tato, and Velvet as well. That's going to be the point cap coming through for Talon. So one false start, but after that, that actually looks pretty convincing from Talon.
And they managed to get a decent amount of kills. Once they get that first kill, they can sort of snowball into the second, third, and convert forwards. They didn't lose any members during that. They sort of just find one, and they just keep on going. Flank now from a week. Be interesting to see how he wants to approach this barrage. Note that there's no mercy with him, so Haru's with the rest of the team. And Ho Jin Ho has gone to the water, so expect some good counterplay.
Just hovering off the side. This is dangerous. He can't actually afford to drop down at all here. He's got to really toggle that throttle. He's going to be just fine. It's not that hard, don't get me wrong, but there is an added element of danger.
His position got revealed.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the real thing. The position got revealed. Ho Jin Ho finds the angle, and now Talon, a member down. Don't let the ultimates fool you. They aren't ahead in this fight.
But they need to get their members back in, and then they will be ahead. The one thing that they don't have in terms of advantage is they do not have positioning, but they have players now. That's important.
Self-destruct up onto the high ground, placed beautifully, practically wrapped up in a bow. It didn't even need the kills off that. It just forced New Paradigm back, allows Talon to get on the cart. Now New Paradigm, as they have to run down to the cart themselves to answer, are the ones on the back foot. Frost goes down, Ho Jin Ho as well, plus a res on a week, and Talon are underway.
They do get this cart moving forward, and now with New Paradigm kind of stuck in their base, specifically Ho Jin Ho, who doesn't have angles to work with, we can feel a lot safer now because he's been going down to Ho Jin Ho a number of times now. This barrage he's had since A point, and he's looking to use it again.
And this is a great position for Talon to be in. They can catch New Paradigm as they are trying to get out of these gates. And it actually means it's New Paradigm who have to find a way into this fight. They're the ones who have to answer, be proactive. They dive in, they even catch TYG on said dive, Primal Rage onto Persia, holding on to that ultimate for now. That Transcendence doesn't need it just yet. Getting topped off by Haru.
He's got to use it.
Yeah, he's going to have to use it now, but while that was all going on, a week was able to take out his counterpart, and now Talon back on the front foot. Ooh, not so much, actually, as they lose Gogora out of the mech. Persia goes right in the face of Velvet. Feels like they kind of just snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
I mean, New Paradigm had the kind of ultimates to break out that they haven't even had to use the Transcendence. The real big surprise is a week has just somehow still not found the opportunity to get this barrage underway. He's had this for so long. If Talon actually cap out B now, and he hasn't used a barrage, he's going to have to swap off anyway to see it'll be totally wasted.
And now Velvet dies without using his Transcendence. That was so rough timing-wise for New Paradigm earlier anyway. I'm dying as Tito jumped off a ledge to reset his mech, which he probably did too late anyway. But, I mean, a 6 versus 4. There's really no recovering from that, unfortunately, for New Paradigm. Yeah, missed timing on that one. A week's going deep, but he needs to find an angle. The cap's going to come through at any rate.
He's just threatening right now. It doesn't matter if he dies. If he dies, he resets onto a different hero anyway. At least that's the expectation. Look at Villeneuve, look at Gogora, already swapping through, expecting a week to maybe go into something like Junkrat.
I'm just going to eat some rockets.
Tasty.
I like how an arrow and a rocket are comparable in this game.
It's a really weak rocket when you think about it.
or an incredibly strong arrow. It's like, what if it's got like a slightly explosive tip? I feel like that would make some amount of sense. Well, at any rate, it's actually hammers that are going to be the most devastating weapon of the team so far. Yeah, frosted tips, I like it. And he's going to go down. And with that, Talon, they're keeping the momentum on this side. Rocket Barrage is enough to pop Ho Jin Ho. Good answer from Velvet. A week was just kind of feeding the rest of that into that defense matrix. Ein goes down. Talon still at the momentum on their side, and I do still expect a week to change.
No, he got raised.
Poor guy, he's like, please, just let me go. Persia also getting picked off, rather, means that New Paradigm should be able to stabilize. Indeed, Talon pulling back.
All right, we're at this sort of stage now where both tank ultimates are coming online, but the Dragon is not available just yet. Also, Doomfist coming up. Very exciting for the side of New Paradigm, but you do start to feel some desperation. Kant is very close now. You're not expected to see a Doomfist unless you're in a position where you're really threatening to lose, or threatened to lose, rather.
Now Talon looking for an angle in. Still 2 minutes remaining, plenty of time for them, and they're coming up on a lot of ultimates. Their Pharah does still feel very suboptimal here, but it's only Hojin Ho that can actually pressure. TYG raised back up.
It's not necessarily true.
It's not terrible.
The ceiling here is so low that realistically anyone could pressure.
There's going to be, yeah, the pick on a week. There's the grab dragon combo that they were looking for. It doesn't get the kills itself. It's Gogora who gets the kills through it. It's not the dragon strike, but doesn't matter what gets the kills. What matters is that the payload sails over the finish line. Heinz contesting is the last gasp from New Paradigm as Talon are going to push the payload to its terminus.
Didn't feel like it took a lot of time though. There were some slow ups very early on. A wasn't super smooth. Had to wait until a very definitive push from Talon Esports where almost surprisingly they didn't lose any members. They kind of just picked out the members on New Paradigm one by one, and then on B, a couple more slow ups, not too many. That middle section before the bridge wasn't necessarily the best, and then finally got that one camped out, and C was a little bit of a struggle as well, but ultimately they did finish them at 133 remaining. It was kind of, you almost expected a little bit more out of New Paradigm, who, to be quite honest with you, had a lot of time to set up onto C. This isn't a case where we look at EXL Monster Shield and think, okay, well, Monster Shield just blew through that one in overtime pressure. It's not like that. New Paradigm had plenty of setup time and just failed to do so.
I've got to speak to the other side of that, though. Again, this still feels like there's a lot of situations where Talon could be playing a lot cleaner, especially on that B push. There were a lot of there were moments where they just kind of did themselves no favors, like the really long wraparound from a week. It was unnecessary.
That's pretty weak.
Yeah, hey, it was. They had ultimate advantage. They could have gone front on. They didn't need to do anything sneaky. They had the upper hand, and they didn't leverage it at all. In fact, they gave New Paradigm a window to actually push them back. Immediately after that, New Paradigm came in with a much more conventional fight that they won with ease. So I want to see Talon still clean up the play, tidy things up, get it together. Don't try anything wacky if you don't need to.
The thing is, either team that really cleans up their plays right now should be the one coming out online, coming out ahead. That's an obvious thing to say, but it doesn't feel like we're seeing the teams at 100%. We're seeing them somewhere around the middle section right now in terms of
anywhere between
potential.
50 and 80 depending on the fight.
But that's the thing, right? Any team that kind of just slightly pushes forward is going to get a really big lead here.
And again, we've got a Pharah v Pharah situation on our hands.
But the ground game again is where I feel the real action starts. There it is.
Exactly, it's the dive. It's TYG and Hojin Ho doing the work. I love those three-syllable names. Villeneuve popping Frost means Talon get to shore up the defense for a little bit longer. Nice catch on Ilsubi as well. Bit of a late one, but that's good news for Talon, bad news for New Paradigm. And New Paradigm kind of failing on this retreat here. They were moving back forward despite not being at full strength yet. That's a mistake.
And that's the thing about New Paradigm. I pointed this one out on Lee Jung Tao, but when they start losing members, man, they lose a lot of members. It's sometimes rare, especially at the higher levels, where you see teams get wiped out so effectively. But Talon, even on New Paradigm's retreat, just find additional picks. You just see some more additional picks right here as well.
I'd like to marry that aerial. Just how upfront, how to the face it was. Good trade onto Persia. He's in a bit of a tough spot to res. I think Haru's going to try and look for an angle, but right now he's in a bit of trouble himself. Persia, just barely getting the res in the nick of time. It looked like he was going to have to take the long walk back. But in the meantime, Talon were getting kills through a New Paradigm. So again, it just runs down the clock for New Paradigm, who are really not making any headway.
And I'll be honest, Talon did struggle on the A offense as well. It wasn't until a bit later on that they secured it. So maybe benefit of the doubt here for New Paradigm. They can find something a little bit later on, but they are now slowly running out of that time, as you sort of mentioned here. Losing players as well. It's not looking good.
Pulse Bomb, that's a one and done, and that'll probably be a fight that New Paradigm again can't take. It's just a respawn they have to wait for, especially.
They could raise and go in, but
Tato is just getting so much time wasted by TYG, who's really not getting opposed on this backline. Ho Jun-ho finally coming in to force TYG back, but that's exactly it. It just forces TYG back. It's still time New Paradigm lose.
We need to see some initiative come out of New Paradigm here, and I'm looking at the tanks for that because defensively it was Frost that opened up against Villeneuve when it was New Paradigm defending. Coming onto this offense, it's kind of been the opposite so far. Frost is dying very early, very often.
Yeah, that's once again to TYG, who is now starting to run amok. I was saying before, not really getting answered, and now it's really starting to cost New Paradigm. TYG is getting bolder and bolder, and he can.
Yeah.
New Paradigm aren't doing anything
Stands
about
for Trim Your Garden, by the way. I just made that up.
I would have believed you if you hadn't said, because like it was such a clever sounding name. I was like, you know what, maybe it does.
5 ultimates available for Talon Esports. That's still a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but it's a reasonable amount more. Enough that New Paradigm should be struggling here. Frost going into the Reinhardt, not necessarily sure if I agree with that. Where Weak is, he can just get such a great angle that Frost is not going to have too much fun. Does get pressured out just a little bit there.
There's this weird, yeah, there's a disconnect now in New Paradigm's team comp because they've got dive in every regard except for that Reinhardt.
And he's gone.
Yeah, well, now they've got dive.
Now they got dive.
Now they got dive. It's a 5-on-5 dive as well. Actually, a 5-on-4 as they pop TYG. Haru's got to look for a res somewhere in here. Gogora, he's low. Villeneuve as well, extremely low immediately as he popped the Primal Rage. 1 kill off a week. And I feel like he had earlier opportunities to pop that barrage, chose not to, and in the end, it gives New Paradigm a window to finally crack this point.
I believe Frost was playing the long con there. He was going to the Reinhardt to confuse you, and while that was happening, New Paradigm dived. They're like, well, you think we're not going to dive, and the other five members actually do dive. But you see the difference when New Paradigm actually have initiative, when they actually go and engage and find it engaging. You're right about a week as well. This guy holds onto rocket barrages insanely long.
He holds them on for a whole week.
He's saving this for next week.
That's where the name comes from. He's like, hold on, we don't need this for this match. What if I can hold him for next week? Oh man, Talon on the defensive here, but they've got ultimates in the back pocket, at least a little bit. Iron down as well. That's a crucial pick for Talon here because he was coming up on a Dragon Blade. With him out of the picture, Talon can get a little aggressive, set up a better hold here, and get the ultimates charged up. Had that Dragon Blade come through, New Paradigm probably could have cracked the high ground and got momentum on their side.
So this is where I think New Paradigm have a much clearer play style with this composition, right? No, it still applies. I was going to say with the Widow, Genji works a little bit better, but Ho Jun-ho onto the McCree, I guess still has pressure onto a weak. Speaking of pressure, the blade does come out. That's one way to take him down.
Persia glows in the middle of the road. 1 for 1 though, they'll be happy to take that, I suppose. Losing Frost is rough, it really hurts the dive. Velvet though, popping out his Transcendence, unfortunately not quick enough for Ein's sake, who did die to that self-destruct. Double rally, I like how she specifies, rally to me, not anyone else, rally to me.
Clearing the area.
Makes sense, can't rally to anyone else in this game. At least not in the way that gives you armor.
We are still waiting to see New Paradigm really break out here. So this is kind of the rough area to play in if you're Ho Jun-ho. You need some better angles, some better sight lines, and with the Widowmaker, it'd be slightly easier to find.
Oh, didn't quite get enough on Haru there. Very clutch, but Haru's going to go down to the self-destruct. And that's what they needed here to crack through this one. The flashbang onto Frost as well. It was, onto Villeneuve. It was enough to allow him to get closed off on. Now New Paradigm, they get some movement going on.
I'd like to see if they can find nice swaps, by the way, a week just going onto the Widowmaker to contest Iron. So we're seeing sort of the Widowmaker on the other side now. But getting Ho Jun-ho into a good position is what is going to be quite key here. So high ground control favoring New Paradigm in this position while Talon Esports are trying to reset up. Less than 30 seconds remaining. The card is only now just approaching the bridge.
Very big dive on a weak, and TYG dies to a flashbang headshot as well. A weak, it looks like he's going to get out of here. Now the counter dive comes onto Ho Jun-ho, so things start, things start falling the way of Talon, and because Frost's dive on a weak failed, he now pulls back to find his team is dead and getting beaten off the cart with no time left to reset, and it looks like Talon should be able to complete a hold off the back of that one. Indeed, TYG just going to keep a lid on Frost, and that's the last hurrah on the payload itself. Talon now 2-0 up in the series.
Seemed a little uneventful from New Paradigm. It's just a general lack of fights and lack of engagements taken. I think
I feel like I just queued for 30 minutes at an amusement park for a ride that takes 30 seconds. That's what that felt like. It's like, all right, here we go. They're underway.
People say you queued for Overwatch and then they're like, all right, I got to leave and now we finished. No, but what I'm trying to say here is, this is kind of similar to what we saw on Lijiang in some respects, right? When, and I'm going to bring up Gardens for this example, when we saw the tables turn and Talon actually cap Gardens out and New Paradigm had to reset and come back in, just a very uneventful attack. I mean, they spent the entire time kind of coming in, losing a bunch of members, fully resetting, rinse and repeat, constantly losing members early, constantly losing fights, and just never finding an engagement. It's not like, okay, we actually dived, we actually did what our composition meant to do, and then we lost because we failed to execute. They didn't even get to that step. They failed the first step. They didn't even get to the part where they tried to win. They just lost straight away. And that's a lot of what I felt happened on the attack for Iconwell for New Paradigm, which is, unfortunately for them, a big reason why they lose.
Watching New Paradigm is a lot like, it feels like a lot of this.
They need a newer Paradigm.
Feels like a lot of waiting. Feels like a lot of nothing happening. It feels like a lot of staring. You know, it's like watching grass grow or paint dry, watching New Paradigm set up for an attack.
Trim your garden.
It's the same. Yeah. Clean yourself up, trim your garden, finish painting your house. Whatever it is they need to do, they need to start getting it together because they are at match point.
And we're going to take a quick break because it is halftime in our final match of the evening. When we come back, we find out if the players have cleansed themselves or not. New Paradigm and Talon Esports return after this.